Good morning, Cindy here, and today we are going to take a May garden tour of my front yard and backyard. I thought the first thing we'd look at is this beautiful hibiscus. This is a double flowering hibiscus, so it's really got a nice double of oh my goodness, there's probably 10, 15 petals per one flower. And I like to keep the tags. I keep them in my garden truck. This is Cecilia. So this is a red, showy double hibiscus. So to keep this beautiful hibiscus in full bloom all the way through the summer, I give it a high nitrogen. So this one is from a local nursery, and it's the granular, and it is the tropical. So the tropical, and the first number is 15, so it's a 15 nitrogen. So hibiscus like anywhere between 15 and 10 on the nitrogen level, and that keeps them blooming and looking great. Now there was a time early on where my buds began to be attacked by aphids or something, and so you need to get your trusty neem oil, and I really like this Captain Jack's neem oil, and you just spray all of the buds before they blossom, and that seemed to handle it, and I don't have any more problems. If that doesn't work, then you may have to go with something a little more harsh. You can also try just spraying it with the water. You can turn the water on really hard and spray those things away. I'm also sitting here by a beautiful foxtail, and this has really finally started taking off. And what I've been doing is I have been putting in a tablespoon of Epsom salt in my big watering can. So this is a 2-gallon, so I would put 2 tablespoons of the Epsom salt, which is also just magnesium. It's another word for magnesium. And it has really made a difference. This has just doubled in size in the last month. So I'm very excited. We really have a hard time keeping our foxtail alive in the harsh winters we've been having. Now last year we had a mild winter, thank goodness, and but I have started keeping my foxtail in pots, and that way I can be assured that I keep it around from year to year. Let's keep going. So everything is looking great. I'm going to get the handheld camera and give you a tour of what is going on out here. It is just glorious right now. So let's take a look. So as you can tell by getting back and taking a panoramic view, I like a cottage garden feel. So I put everything in and see what grows. So here we have, I do love salvias. I have all kinds of salvias here in the yard. This is the Henry Dulberg salvia, doing great. I chopped it pretty hard when it first started growing, and that sent a message to thicken up the bottom. I really wanted these stems to be able to hold up the flowers as the summer comes upon us. And so I think I did that, and it looks like it's much thicker now. And I've got a lot of abelias. So everything you see back here all the way around, this is abelia, and it is my favorite evergreen foundation plant. And it comes in so many different colorations of the leaves. So this one is just a plain green. It's kind of a little light green right now. And then this one is a twist of lime. And if I give this a good shearing, it's really more of this kind of chartreuse color. And you do have to cut them back because they can get a little woolly, but I have kept these in control. I keep them at the level I want them to be. I want them to be about 3 feet tall, and I come in twice a year and hack them down if they start getting a little taller than that, and it works out great for both of us. Here we have coneflower. Look at the coneflower. It is just popping up everywhere. Lots of buds. I just love coneflower, and this comes back every year. Everything you see in my garden comes back every year on its own. That's pretty much the only thing I like to plant anymore. And then Shasta daisies. This is the Becky variety. Unless we have an especially cold winter, this stays evergreen. And it just has been spreading and getting a little bit fuller and, you know, kind of going out of bounds a little bit. And that's okay with me, but I do plan to kind of take some of this in the back and put it in other places in my yard. But look how pretty they are. I just love these. And then Ajuga is the ground cover here, and it is doing great. This is the chocolate chip variety, so it has kind of a brown tint going on. And this is a sedum, and I have decided I'm moving this sedum because the Ajuga is starting to be a bully and take over. So I think I'm going to like the look of the Ajuga, and I'm going to put this sedum in another spot. I have several other places I'm going to do that. And now this is the creeping phlox. So there's two kinds of phlox. There's a tall one, and this is the low one. And if you remember, in the spring, the ajuga and the sedum and the creeping phlox were covered with pink and purple flowers. It was just gorgeous. And now this will stay evergreen for the rest of the year. And then I have some more salvias. This was something I had in a pot, and I just stuck them over here for a while. Some more. This is Henry Dulberg salvia, and the my container pots are looking great. I gave them a real snip. I took off all of the dead blooms. I deadheaded that, and it's already starting to show new buds. So in another week, it'll be covered with the pretty yellow flowers again. And it's got dianthus in there, and it has lobelia. The lobelia has kind of been snuffed out by the dianthus, but if you get over on this one, I put the dianthus on the sides and I put the lobelia in the front, and that seemed to work out better. So the lobelia is still hanging in there, and the dianthus is doing great. So I'm going to remember that for next year. And I have a nice begonia here, and I have some ferns and a hanging basket of supertunias. So let's keep going. Here is a Henry Dulberg salvia. I chopped it, and it is not yet putting out its purple flowers, but it will soon. There's some right there. And I have another Shasta daisy on the left. And then my favorite salvia of all time. If you don't have one of these, you've got to get one. This is Mystic Spires. And I purchased another one, and I planted it down the end of this section of the garden. And this is lantana. I have a couple of lantanas in this big flower bed. And this is agapanthus, and this one will bloom later on in the summer. And I have some new abelias I've planted here. I'm just kind of repeating that. And I'm still trying to decide what to put here. But right now, this is a placeholder. This is the Mexican bush sage. If I get closer, you can see how wonderful these blossoms are. It's got these little trumpet designs, and the hummingbirds just go mad for this, and the butterflies. And look at this lantana. This is a pink one. I think this is called Carousel. And I have some new things. This is May Night. This is a low-growing salvia. Sundrops, another low-growing flowering plant. This Sundrops is really nice and drought tolerant. And I'm not sure if it's going to like it here, because the Sundrops really wants to have low water. And we'll see. If it starts looking distressed, I'll have to pull this out and put this in a different location. I do have a drip system here, and it might end up with too much water. And there is my other Mystic Spires. Hope it takes root and looks as wonderful as the one on the other end. The other one I've had for about 5 years, and this one I've had for a few months. Okay, let's go check out the front. So the hollies are starting to finally leap. You know, the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, and the third year they leap. Finally, they're starting to get some growth on them. And I'm so thrilled because this electric box is not fun to look at. So that's going to be great. This variety of holly is the Nellie Stevens. It's a really great, tough plant. That's a wonderful Yopon holly. You cannot go wrong with these. These come in just the size that can get up to 6 feet. Well, that's probably 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall. And they also make a dwarf Yopon. These are the hardiest of all of the evergreens. But the problem with them is they are so slow. So I prefer the Abelia because they're a little quicker to grow. But you know, it's up to you what you need in your yard. And then looking across the front, this is the part that of my garden that is facing the street. And this part does not receive any irrigation. And so what I put out here has to make it with just whatever rainwater, and if I feel kind and I want to bring, give it a little water. So I love putting the yuccas out here. This is the red yucca with these great bloom stalks. Look how pretty. And these do this all the way through the year. Aren't they gorgeous? And they're just as tough as nails. You can clip these off as soon as they stop blooming, but you never want to prune the base. And moving on, we have the purple trailing lantana. I have about 4 of these going all the way down the walkway, and they don't require much water at all. And then the bougainvillea, I do water this like crazy when the temperatures really get hot. It loves the heat, it loves the sun, but it does not love the drought. So you do have to hand water this if you're going to have a bougainvillea. And then another tough as nails plant is the Texas sage. And this is the gray leafed sage. And they also make it in a dark green. So this is just so pretty. And it will be covered with pink flowers anytime now because it tells you when you've had a rain or you're about to have a rain. So that's a lot of fun. I do clip mine across the top because I don't want it to get too tall because I want you to be able to see the house. And another bougainvillea. And those bougainvillea, by the way, are in pots. And then I put rocks around it to make it look like they're naturally growing out of the ground. I have tried planting them in the ground before, but they can't survive freezing temperatures. So that didn't work out. But so now I just take them inside during the wintertime. So these are 2 years old. And here it is May 15th, and I already have big, gorgeous bougainvilleas. So it was definitely worth it to put it in the garage over the winter. So as we approach the backyard, I was going to show you, these are my cherry laurels. Now, if you're looking for a wonderful evergreen, this grows columnar, so tall, and they will pretty soon, they will come together and this will make a complete screen. And I have more on the left side of the house, and I can't wait for them to completely come together, and then we will have a lot more privacy back there. But this is cherry laurel, and they will get quite high, probably 10 feet or more here in this rocky garden, and they're very happy here. The one thing I would suggest though is you when you plant them, make sure that you add one of those bars that they stick in the ground and tie the tree to keep them upright and sturdy. And don't take those bars off until they're about 2 or 3 years old, I'm going to use this fence to help these, but the reason I'm telling you this is see, I'm going to tie this tree to this fence. If we have another one of those ice storms where the trees were covered with ice, the ones I had in the front yard just completely bent over and cracked. And that was very sad. So these I'm going to be able to tie to this fence. But if you wanted to have these, you would maybe keep that post right behind the tree so it's not visible. Keep it tied, and that way, in case we have any more of those horrific ice storms, you won't lose your cherry laurels like I did. I did have one survive, and I'm so happy that one made it. But I love these so much. We're trying again, but we have a backup plan. Okay, as we enter the backyard, just quickly we'll run through. I wanted to show you how pretty the daylilies are looking. They are in full bloom right now. These are, I don't even know exactly what they are. I call them the tiger lilies or ditch lilies. They're just so pretty. They have a yellow center. If you know the name of these, let me know. And I have more down here. We have Stella de Oro right here. This is a shorter variety. This is brand new. I just put those in. And we continue on down. I have Little Business, which is a really pretty one. And more of the orange ones. And I've put these in with skullcap. So skullcap is a fantastic low-growing flowering shrub, and it is perennial. It comes back every year, and it stays low. So it's just a wonderful complement to the daylily. So I would highly recommend skullcap. And every year you're going to chop it down, give it a nice haircut, and it will stay nice and thick if it starts looking a little bit leggy. And while we're back here, the Russian sage is starting to bloom. You've got to give Russian sage a lot of space because it will really spread out. And then this is Thryallis. So this goes dormant and you chop it down to the ground in the winter. And now it's already almost 3 feet tall, and it will be covered with yellow blossoms all the way through fall. And I transplanted some of those salvias, the Henry Dilberg salvias over here, and they're doing great. And over here, I have another walkway, and this is a new garden, so everything is a little scraggly and not sure. And before we look at that, I still have bluebonnets. Can you believe it? Because we've had such a nice rainy spring, and this is a pretty well-drained rocky area. They're so happy. It's amazing. But in here I have rock rose, I have Turk's cap that hasn't bloomed yet, and I have some of the fall aster back there. There's a lantana, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this come together and mature. Everything is really young. I have a salvia greggis back there, some nepeta or catmint, and here is a new one. This is Mexican honeysuckle, and this is going to have orange flowers on it. More salvia gregi, and there's some more rock rose. This is what the fall aster will have all over it very soon. And we have a lot of liriope. And then this was quite a surprise. This is sunflowers and some zinnias, and they have just volunteered themselves here, and they're as taller than I am. So I'm going to have a wonderful little stand of sunflowers. I just love it when nature surprises you with things. Actually, I planted them last year, but I wasn't sure if they'd come back, but they sure did. And then this little garden bed here, I have 3 large shrubs growing in here. So this is thryallis, this is yellow flowers, and this is salvia. This is the Dulberg, Henry Dulberg, and I just chopped this because it was getting leggy and falling over already. And then this is another thryallis, which gives the yellow, has the yellow flowers on it. So that's always pretty. Let's run over here and look at the roses. So I did a video recently about my roses stopped blooming, and look at these. I gave them a little deadheading. I gave them some fertilizer, and everywhere that you see these red leaves, I have new buds coming up, covered. Let me get back so you can see how many red leaves there are. That means that there's new growth, new buds coming out. So had I fertilized on time, I never would have had this time where there were no roses. So I've learned my lesson on that. And here's another one that's doing great. Getting a lot of new blossoms on this one. And this is my Belinda's Dream. And so this one is a very new rose. But it's had some of the most gorgeous blooms. Okay, so let's keep going. Here is a new project I've started for myself. Can you see that there is a lot of blank space here? Let me get back. This is the flower bed across the back of the house. And at one time, a week ago, this was completely covered with Berkeley sedge. And I decided that it was becoming too invasive. And it just wasn't the look I was going for. So I came in, my husband helped me, and we pulled out 13 Berkeley sedge, and we moved them. And I'll show you where we moved them. And now I get to make a video very soon on what we're going to put here. And I just can't wait to share with you the flowering perennial shrubs that I'm going to put all in here. What is still here, though, is boxwood foundation plants. This is the Japanese variety. And then I have drift roses all across there, and one trailing lantana, purple trailing lantana. So we have a lot of work to do. And continuing over, there's my amaryllis. And I have a little dog fence here. If you have an area that the dogs are trampling too much and killing your grass, if you just fence it for a while and keep the dogs from running through it and put a little bit of compost or dillo dirt or something in the area, it won't be long and you'll get the new grass. You just have to keep the dogs off of it for a while. This is plumbago, and it was chopped all the way to the ground after the winter kind of sent it into dormancy, and now it's about 2 feet tall, and it's going to be covered with the most beautiful blue flowers. And there's more boxwood and more drift roses. And then this is denim and lace. This is the cousin to Russian sage. And this year, I think it's finally going to put out some blooms. It's been it's really been slow to put out any blooms. But look here, you see these are kind of flopping over. Definitely should have chopped this a month ago. Boy, I just can't get to it all. And then here is some more of the cherry laurels, screening out the neighbors and the street view. So there you have it. This is where I do my potting and keep all my pots. Can't wait for these to grow up and hide the ugly over here. Every gardener has an ugly spot, I think. And we have zoysia grass back here too, and it's looking great. We did some terracing right here. We had a pretty big slope and we were losing all our grass and soil every time it rained. So we put these timbers in and raised the area where I'm standing quite a bit, and it's really done a great job keeping our grass nice and green and healthy. And here are my creek is here, and I have yarrow. Look at this yarrow. It is a plant that is gray. Anytime you have a plant that has gray leaves, that tells you that it is a plant that wants to be kept fairly dry and it wants good drainage. So if you overwater this, it will die on you. But this is a perfect little spot. Everything back here I don't water too much. You can see the drip irrigation is showing, which isn't very tidy. And then I have a lot more of the skullcap, and this stays low. Garden I have doesn't really care that if it doesn't get much water, so it's a nice plant to be with the yarrow. And we have some purslane here and a little rocky crevice here. This area of the garden is looking pretty nice. I have some plumeria in pots. I bring those into the garage in the wintertime. I have lamb's ear. This is the Helen von Stein lamb's ear, which is the larger leaf. And this is a shady area, so everything in this spot needs to be in the shade. So this is Legularia or leopard plant and Turk's cap. Now the Turk's cap can handle more sun. I also have a river fern here, and there's one kind of over here. And as we continue walking down the path, I show you where I put the Berkeley sedge. So it's been in the ground a bit less than a week, and we've had some nice rain, and it has helped tremendously keep these guys alive. And of course, I've also hand watered. So now when this Berkeley sedge wants to spread and be invasive, that's just fine. It can just go anywhere it wants into the grass. We call this the wild area. It's just not something you want to plant in a garden where you want other flowering perennials. And then this is another little garden. I have more of the daylilies back here, abelia, and an oak leaf hydrangea that is just as happy as can be. And if I very slowly pan around, I wanted to show you American beautyberry. Isn't that pretty? And very shortly, this American beautyberry will be covered with the most beautiful pinkish purple berries, and the birds just love it. And then this vine growing across this back chain link fence is clematis. This is wild clematis, and I highly recommend getting some clematis. It kind of dies back in the winter and browns out, and but it's very quick to come back. And then all across the back fence, I have red tip photinia, and it's another great evergreen. Watch your photinia carefully. If you do start seeing some red spots, black spots, you may have to treat it with some herbicides. So that would be another video to talk about on what you do if your photinias get that terrible photinia disease. So far, we don't have it in my area, but I know in Austin it has really wiped out a lot of photinias. But this is a wonderful screen from the area back behind us where they're building new homes. So I was able to get nice and close to a beautiful butterfly. That's a queen. The monarchs aren't here yet, but as I pan back, you can see I have a beautiful pollinator garden. This is Greg's mistflower, and it spreads like crazy, which is what I allowed it to do. I just created this big mound, and we planted this in it, and it just has done exactly what I wanted it to do. It's filled in all the way across here. I would say this is about a 20-foot by 10-foot garden bed in kind of an oval shape. And it has just been such a pleasure to have this. I only see one butterfly here right this minute, but normally there are 10 butterflies here. We're about to have some rain, so I think they know that. This is a butterfly bush, and I need to deadhead this. The more you deadhead your butterfly bush, the more flowers you'll get. And this is Gara. Let me go over here and look at this one instead. There's two big Gara back here, and the butterflies just love it. They also call it whirling butterfly. Look how pretty these are. Don't those look like little butterflies? And they do kind of whirl around. And I think this one may have needed a little drink of water, and all of its blooms fell off. So if you've got a pollinator garden, you've got to put in some milkweed. And this is the antelope native. Not very pretty, but it's only been in this garden for about 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see, but it'll grow up bigger, and when the monarchs get here, they will use that as the host for their larvae. So they will eat nectar from all the plants, but they only lay their eggs on this host plant. So if you want to help butterflies, plant some milkweed. And as we go along here, I was going to show you, this is what I do with a lot of my limestone that when I dig holes, I just use it around the edge of garden beds. But look who's finally decided to make an entrance. It's Pride of Barbados. It is already May 15th and it's just started to show up. But that's the way the Pride of Barbados do. They're one of the latest ones. And that's okay. You need plants to show up at all different times of the year. Well, that is the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you guys will get out there and try something. Plant some daylilies. It's the easiest thing. They take care of themselves. You plant them once and you're done, and they come back every year. Put in a pollinator garden. That Greg's Mistflower, it just grows on its own, and you get tons of wonderful butterflies. So gardening is a lot of fun, and I am trying everything. Comment below and let me know if there's something you're doing in your garden that you'd like to share with all of us. How is your garden doing here in May? This has been one of the best, rainiest Mays we've had in a long time here in Central Texas. So I hope that you are enjoying this time. The heat will be upon us very soon, so just keep remembering these days where the weather was in the 70s and the 80s, and we had all this nice rain. Okay, well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and get outside in your garden. It's beautiful out here.